Hey everybody out there in podcast land, this is your host, Sev and Henderson, back again with another episode of Firecast as presented by Department 3C. Today's episode that we put together for you is from the original Designated Drinkers podcast feed. On that feed, we had the pleasure of speaking with Lee Reeve. He's from out of town, and he came on to talk about cider movement. If you know me, you know I do a couple of different shows, and one of those shows is the original Designated Drinkers, along with this podcast here that you're checking out, Firecast, as presented by Department 3C. And I did this before with another episode that I felt was just so good that I had to do it like a crossover type of episode, and that was another situation here. So I just would like for you to take a listen. If you haven't checked out the original Designated Drinkers, please check out that podcast. The podcast is awesome, gets a lot of great reviews. A lot of people in the industry seem to like it, so must be doing something right there. And tell us what you think. Please leave feedback and like, comment, subscribe, all that other fun stuff. And with that being said, I'll get into the episode. Thanks for listening. Hey everybody out there in podcast land, this is Sev and
Ambrosia.
And welcome to another riveting, excellent,
fantastic,
ear-popping, in a good way, not that we're going to try and bust your eardrums, episode of the original Designated Drinkers.
The podcast where we dive deep into drinking one libation at a time. And
please, just because you had this guest, please tell us who this podcast is brought to us by today.
Today's podcast is brought to you by a very special guest, Lee Reeves.
Yay!
Hey there.
Okay, so for me, layman dummy Sev over here, and I like kind of not knowing too much before I step in. For the layman, who is Lee Reeves and what does Lee Reeves represent?
I'll let you take that away.
Well, thanks for having me on. Name is Lee Reeve. I am a cider consultant.
Okay.
And a publisher of a cider magazine, and recently, 3 years ago, I've become a cider importer and distributor. So it's kind of what I do.
Cool. Now, the accent is awesome. Can you please let me know
South side of Chicago. No, raised, I was actually born in England, but raised in Scotland. So the accent is the Glaswegian thing. But I've been living in Japan for ages.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. That's really awesome. That's great to hear. So, like I said, just the layman term to me and Ambrosia is like, oh my God, I have this guest and we have to get him. It's gonna be the best time ever in the history of life. And I'm like, whatever you say, I'm with it. So, tell us about the magazine. Tell us about the distributor. Just tell us everything that you can.
Start with the magazine.
Start with the magazine.
So
Cool.
This is how Lee and I actually connected.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I saw that there was a new magazine coming out, and it's called Insider Japan. And I slid into your DMs, I believe, and asked, how do I get this? I need this. I run a cider bar here in Chicago. I love cider. How can I get this? And Lee was like, "Oh, I'll just send it to you." And he sent me the first
yeah, because that's the first edition. That's quite hard to get now. Yeah.
So the one I'm holding is the first. Well, it says issue 1,
issue number 1,
2017.
2017, right? So I previously was working in the craft beer industry, and part of that was working for a craft beer magazine called Japan Beer Times, which is the number one craft beer magazine in Japan. And by the time that I shifted out of that and decided to start a business in cider in Japan, I sort of emulated that model, and I launched this magazine, which what it is, it's a bilingual magazine, so it's printed in English and Japanese.
I know, that's pretty cool.
the initial purpose was because at that time cider just wasn't on the map in the country, and so what I was trying to do is just tell people, hey, there's this drink called cider, and this is why you should like it, and just trying to put out as much information about it as I could to the public.
Okay, cool. I've noticed just from drinking and talking to people in different circles, a lot of Japanese spirits now, or U.S. spirits, are being reproduced by Japanese brands, like everything from bourbons and, well, it can't be Kentucky bourbons. Which one has to be from the water, but I've just noticed a lot of reproduction of everything. Yeah. So it sounds like cider is just the next in line of production.
Basically, yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, so the crazy thing is, cider's been being made. Is that even a sentence?
Yes.
It's been made in Japan for quite some time. It's just nobody cared about it.
Okay.
And then, so that's, I'm talking even as far back as the 60s, there have been companies making it. Around 2015, people started to get a little, people being Japanese producers, starting to get a little bit more serious about it. And then now in 2022, people are full on. And a lot of that, that movement has been by acknowledging international cider makers, and so they're starting to emulate those. Much in the same way that I think whiskey is the big one. So,
right.
Years ago, that Japanese whiskey was just, well, it wasn't, and now it's it's some of the best in the world. So,
right.
That's the path that I'm hoping that cider can take.
Okay.
Yeah, following in those footsteps.
So, what got you into cider?
I've been making cider for quite a long time, since my teens. Home brewer, I started with beer, wine, and then eventually discovered that cider was a lot easier to make.
I've heard
I prefer that.
times.
Yeah, that the easier bit. So I've been making it for quite a long time. When I moved to Japan, I actually came in as a graphic designer, of all things. Very quickly realized that I could not get a job as a graphic designer because everybody's a graphic designer in Japan.
Uh-huh.
And so there were a few years where I wasn't doing anything, and I started to homebrew again. And about that time was when craft beer, the Japanese version of craft beer, started to take off. And I just happened to be a guy that knew how to make it, could talk that language in both English and Japanese. And so I started consulting for people that were becoming serious about it. And then I started consulting for professional breweries. And that's, kind of how it all got started.
Cool.
Yeah.
So before we get into super deep cider talk, which I know our studio audience is...
Look at those.
All
those eyes,
is ready to get going. And speaking of that, we do have a studio audience. We're not in our regular spot. We're at somewhere different recording today. So if you hear a few different sounds in the background, please forgive us. But we're still trying to put out the best quality product that we can for you.
All I had to say was Lee Reeves is coming to town, and everyone said, where? How can I get my hands on this Japanese cider? Everyone was so excited.
So psyched for it. Okay. But like I said, before we get super deep into cider, I just got a few spirit questions. So you said you used to do craft beer. Can you give me a little bit of the craft beer scene in Japan?
Now or then. Then it was pretty much... No, that's not true. I was going to say non-existent, but that's not true. There were people interested in it, wanted to make it. The problem was at that time, and that time being the early or mid-2000s, was the brewing laws in Japan pretty much made it impossible for people to go into the brewing business, because you had to make it was an astronomical amount of beer you had to make per year to get a brewing license. In the mid-90s, that law was relaxed, which spurred more interest. But from 2009 to 2010, the people were making it, but the quality was kind of lacking.
Okay.
And most of it because they just didn't have the experience to do it. By 2011, 2012, people started to, again, people being Japanese producers started to leave the country and go learn, basically intern at breweries in other countries. Kind of brought back that knowledge, and then you started to see the beer getting better and better. There was a few, we had like the first wave and the second wave were just the explosion of the number of people making beer. Fast forward to 2022, and it's an insane amount of breweries out there now. And when I say brewery, I'm talking because Japan, everything is small. So mostly, I think by American standard would be maybe micro brewery size.
Right.
Really small output per year, but there's a lot of them now, and some of them are doing well. I think just a few weeks ago at the World Beer Awards, I think Japan took six medals. So. What started as kind of a joke is now it's turned into a pretty serious thing. Okay.
Can you give me a few names of the different breweries and some of the different flavors?
Ones that people in America might know, or at least the West Coast, I should say, because Koedo. They pretty much do a pale ale sort of pale ale IPA, maybe a double IPA now.
Okay,
it's another Hitachi no Nest is another big one.
Very popular here.
They do like a white, I think a really popular white ale.
Their ready to drink cocktails are also amazing.
Yeah, and they've got those as well.
Plum and whiskey sodas and things like that. Hitachi no, one of my bars was one of the first to carry it in Chicago.
Wow, okay,
that sounds delicious.
It's got a little owl on it.
Yeah, that's right. And those are the ones that are being imported. But right now, what's fantastic is this. I think in the last year and a half, just the bar of quality of Japanese craft beer is it really you can taste it now, and those people aren't being exported yet. So there's a lot of stuff happening right now. It's when you can go and get into the country, definitely do it. Because now it's where it's at.
Okay, cool.
And they're making everything. You said styles. I mean, everything from stouts, double IPAs. They're doing hazies now, triple IPA. It's going crazy. It's going crazy.
Everything you can get. You can imagine else, they're making it there. Okay. I was just kind of interested. What were they using for ingredients wise? Like anything different than they use in the States?
No, well, that's the thing about beer, right? There really aren't that many choices. You want grain, you get it from one of three companies. You want hops, you get it from one of three companies. So, no, there are, with the exception of maybe like fruited beers where they can use local fruit. So there's a thing that they call yuzu, which is like a lemon, kind of an off lemon. That's in a lot of beers. That's an ingredient that's quite used, a very Japanese thing. Green tea, I think, is another sort of popular extra ingredient.
Okay, cool. That sounds like I got to make a trip to Japan, just like so many other places I have to go.
Let's do it.
So now we talked about the beer a little bit. Let's get into some cider talk, what everybody's here for. Tell us, did you bring us any samples?
I did. I brought you 2 cider samples and then it's called a chuhai. It's the Japanese seltzer, I guess, is what the closest thing it would be. It's a cocktail.
Seltzer, okay.
We've got Japanese.
We got White Claw.
Yep. Yeah, and I've never had it, so I don't know how
no comment.
How toxic it is, but they tend to be pretty.
Well, we can discover this together.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
So which one would we like to start with?
I've brought 2. Maybe this one here. I don't know if I should say the name or just let you do it, or
Hold on. You know my job.
Yeah, see, I know it. As I listen to your podcast, I know what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's listened to all the podcasts. So.
Oh, you've listened, so you know.
I know what you're going to do next.
You know what I'm going to do next, right? If I can, Shishwa Cidery Red Rock Hopped Cider. I can't read anything, and I'm not even gonna try. Just a nice bottle. You know what? Here you go. It reminds me of my friend's wife. This is something she's really into. I can't think of the name of it, but it's a pattern where it's like it's China plates, but it's white with the blue on there. It's a distinct,
Like a mosaic?
It's not mosaic. It's a distinct pattern, and she like collects them, like the teacups.
And
plates.
I know what you're talking about, and I can't remember what it's
think of
called.
the name of it. Oh, can't wait till we get big time and we can get that fact checker on site to find
their
out
fact
stuff
checker. Our fact checker is great. though.
We'll get it together. But yeah, absolutely, right in the mic. Oh, listen to that sound.
For me, it looks a bit like a stone fence.
Yeah, it's it's called. What is it called? Well, this is the Red Rock, isn't it? And I am pulling up. There we go. Got it. What is on the label? I think that's what it is. Yeah, I think it's in Japanese they call it a kabe, but it's a wall. It's a rock wall.
Yeah, stone fences. They're what are typically lining like front gardens.
Yeah, that's it. That would be it. That's it. This is so it's called Shiwa cider, and it's from a prefecture called Iwate, which is north. Yeah,
That's what I was looking for.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
but
What's it called?
I can't pronounce the name. China. Here, I'll give it to one of you guys. Give it a shot.
Oh, chinois.
Yeah, that's French, yeah.
Chinoisier patterns. So it just means Chinese patterns.
Yeah, from French. But I thought it was it had a different name. I have to
We'll get
call
to
her
the
and
bottom of
find
it.
out. Okay, sorry about that. Keep going.
So Shiwa.
So Shiwa Cidery, it's out in a place called Iwate, which is north of Tokyo, a few hours. It's a Japanese cider, but it's actually made by two American guys, which is interesting in itself. They are not cider makers by. They did other things beforehand, but they basically found Reverend Nat's videos online, started watching them, realized that they were in an area with apples, and decided to start making cider. So this is their version of it. What sets them different from other people in Japan is all of their ciders are hopped. Cheers. And
All their ciders are hot.
Yeah, and this
Okay.
one is, I want to say, well, I've got it.
You know what? That's kind of what it tastes
Citra
like.
and Cascade.
It tastes like cider mixed with a bit of beer.
Yeah. So, and this is Japanese cider, and people ask me all the time, what is it? And there isn't any identity yet. It's still an evolving.
Right, a thing.
It's a thing.
Yes.
And so you basically, long story short, there's three categories now. You either get stuff that's really dry, not very complex, doesn't really have a lot of taste. You get really like just extreme out there fruit or super sweet, or you get this. And what this is basically kind of a beer. Kind of a graph, what is that? A beer cider hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is, again, getting back to brewing laws, because their license, I'm reckoning, is a what's called a Haposhu license, which requires them to add malt.
Oh, okay. So there's beer in here.
Yeah. So technically, there's beer, or there's malt, which makes it a beer product, not a cider, and that's a challenge in most of Japan for a lot of people.
Okay.
So having to add beer to the cider.
Right. And people do get away with adding as little malt as possible, but it's still, it still is what it is.
Are there any organizations or anything trying to lobby on behalf of cider?
I have. I'm trying to use. Yeah, I know I'm allowed to curse. Maybe I should just do that instead.
Just do it.
But I've been fighting for that. So the answer is no. But I have. I work with the Japanese Cider Association, and I work with another regional group of cider makers. And one of the things that I've been demanding is that they've to create their own, to create a style with rules so that they follow them. Because otherwise, it's still kind of Wild West country out there as far as everyone's making something and then they slap the word cider onto it. Like, that's not really cider.
Cider needs a place to sit. It sounds like cider needs a place of its own, with its own set of rules and its own set of regulations in Japan.
Yeah,
it
and
sounds like
it's like anything else. You know, there's this, things are boiling now, which is fantastic, and things will settle. Equilibrium will be reached. I just want to accelerate that and make it happen now.
Yeah, that's right what we always want. I like I was just talking about this podcast. I want it to blow up now.
Yeah.
But sometimes more times than not, the story is within the story. The story of how it grew is within the time and the patience that it takes to get everything going. And I mean, when you're done and you have this cider conglomerate of Japan probably taking over the world, then you'll say, I was on the ground floor and this is how I got it going. Well, a big question I have that keeps popping up in my mind, since we know cider is made with apples, and I know there are some Japanese apples that we bring over to the States, at least name-wise. What apples are popular in Japan for cider?
The big three. Fuji is definitely number one.
That's the first one I was thinking of.
Yeah. The Pink Lady and Gala, those are the top three.
Those were the exact ones I was thinking of. I must have been hanging around long enough to know a little bit.
Yeah, I think you know a little bit.
But it's kind of like here. They're almost all dessert or eating apples.
Eating apples, yeah.
The thing about Japan, and most of them tend to be high sugar, high brix apples, with the exception of maybe that Bramley is in certain parts, Granny Smith. So we do have those. But those, the top three. Fuji is definitely, without question, the number one.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Pairing wise, I know here a lot of times we pair different foods with different drinks. Cider, I know Ambrosia is trying to kind of get that pushed more with meals and cocktails and all that other fun stuff. Do you guys have any pairing recommendations with any of the ciders that you produce or that you know about?
Talking Japanese food, the ones that we to reach the average Joe on the street, yakitori, which is basically skewered grilled chicken.
Right.
So it's a chicken, obviously. That pairs perfectly with cider. Another one is, did they say gyoza here? So pot stickers. Mm-hmm. So you've got the oil, you've got the pork. Again, it matches superbly with cider. And then there's another thing that we call takoyaki, which is octopus balls. I guess that's what it is.
Octopus balls?
It's
go ahead. Keep going.
I'm just gonna say
go ahead and describe this.
It's round. It's basically a piece of octopus that has been. It's in a batter.
Okay.
I'm trying
like a croquette, like a hush puppy.
Like a hush puppy, but octopus.
Yeah.
So is it octopus testicle? Do octopuses have testicles? Octopi.
Let's find out.
Octopi, because they're not octopuses.
Yeah, they've got eight testicles from what I've heard.
One for each leg. Holy moly!
Yeah.
Hold on, are they leg? No, are they tentacles?
Tentacles.
Yeah.
Tentacles. Yeah. See? Oh man, now making me think too much.
So you're mixing up the octopus tentacles, I assume, with batter and other things, and then rolling them into a ball and then deep frying them?
That's it.
There it is.
And it's just a snack that's kind of ubiquitous in Japan, and it's we like to pair it with that because it's really easy to make. People aren't afraid to eat it, and it just makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I'm pretty adventurous. I try, as long as nobody dies on the regular from it. I'm game to try.
There are other animals for that. So yeah, you're pretty safe with.
So for CiderCon, pandemic CiderCon, so CiderCon 2021, Lee did organize a great class. We did it digitally, remotely, and Lee could speak to this better than I can because we were all just in amazement. But there was a chef on cooking with cider, and could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, well, that's actually it was Michelle's the director of the American Cider Association. Her idea.
Shout out to Michelle McGrath.
She was a fan of this lady Nancy, and Michelle ran the name by me, and I said, yeah, I know who she is, and I reached out to her, and then the rest was just Nancy's. Like I sent her the ciders to samples of the ciders that we were going to use, and then she created these dishes, and I don't remember them all, but it was brilliant. I mean, so she does this very traditional Japanese cooking, but from a Westerner's perspective. And then she just matched a dish with each cider, and it was an amazing thing to watch.
It was, and I think we counted. We all had side texts. I think we counted 3 times that she said that cider was better than sake.
Yes, and that was the thing. So her thing is that she usually pairs with sake. And in the video, she was very, very vocal about it's a lot better with cider, and has said since that she wants to do a book about it.
Oh yes, I cannot wait to read this one.
I agree. I mean, sake is cool. Cider is a bit better. Please don't nobody out there beat me up. But
my heart is torn because I love them both.
I like cider better
too, but
that's just me.
I love hearing you say that.
So I'm kind of perusing through the magazines as we're speaking. I even saw in the newest issue here that you have one of the other guests that we had on the podcast, Right B Cider.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like when you're car shopping and you pick out a car and you say, I'm going to get this car, I'm going to get this color, and I got it nailed down. And you just keep seeing that car everywhere right after you done all that homework. That's the same thing with Right Beside Her for me, because after we did that podcast, I see them everywhere, which is awesome and which is great. In this magazine, it's a beautiful layout of not just them, but the entire magazine is a beautiful layout of different ciders, apples. The artwork is great. The articles look very interesting. Obviously, I can't sit here and read them while we're talking, but the magazine looks very, very well put together. What kind of response have you gotten to the magazine? Worldwide, pretty much. I mean, in Japan, and since it's by language.
Yes, and thanks for asking. That's I don't get asked that question as much as I'd like to.
That's what I'm here for.
Because I am very proud to say that it was made for Japan, and that's why it's in Japanese and English. But we do have international subscribers, and we've got them in in the UK, in Hong Kong, in America, about 7 different countries, which it just it tells me that people are interested in what's going on in Japan with regards to cider, which is mind blowing. Because really. So there's an audience out there, and so what Inside Japan tries to do is to let people know what's happening. The Right B Cider article, that's a Chicago cider, but the reason why it's in the magazine is because now they're imported by us, but they are imported to Japan, so they are now a part of the Japanese cider scene.
Okay, that has to be a super proud moment for them. That's awesome.
And you were there earlier today, yeah?
I was, to tell them how well their cider is doing, because people are responding to it in a very, very, in a fantastic way. Yeah,
that's great to hear. So, was that your first time at Right B?
No, it's the second time. The first time was 2019, the CiderCon. It's sort of an industry cider event, and I was there, and part of the event was going on this tour, and we went to the cidery, and Katie, one of the co-owners there, told this story, and I thought, this is now 2019, like I could tell that story for them in Japan, And
That's
lo
an
and
awesome
behold,
story.
yeah, 4 years later, that's what I'm doing with that particular brand.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but that's awesome. Another thing I'm noticing in here, I was talking about food pairing. You have recipes in the back.
Very important. So
yes.
And I'm sure it must be the same for other countries and people that deal with promoting and selling cider. But one of the questions we get in Japan is, well, what do you do with it? Like, for example, in Japan, beer is it's nearly synonymous with baseball.
Okay.
Yeah. So if
I'm
you
with
say
that.
baseball, immediately people, and that's where you drink beer.
Yeah.
Sake is the same thing. Well, if you're eating fish or sushi or sashimi or whatever it is, sake. But put cider into somebody's hand, like,
What do you do with it?
When do I drink it?
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do with the magazine is tell them this particular issue that you're looking at. I see it's the
Pulled pork from the oven.
right. So that's a very Western dish.
Right.
But we do have issues with Japanese foods and things like that.
Okay.
And it's really just to show people that the message is it pairs with anything. Give it a go. Try it. It's trying to teach people that it's okay to experiment. I mean, that's the best way to learn about cider and what it goes with.
This is one of the first things when my mother and aunts, uncles, parents were teaching me how to cook. This is one of the first things I learned how to make.
Is that right?
Yep. And so I was looking at the ingredients and looking at the directions, and it's pretty much synonymous with what I've been doing for my whole cooking
Wow,
life.
that's good.
I've been it's
I
pretty
think I
close.
asked somebody who knew, because I certainly cannot do pulled pork as much as I'd love to, but I think I asked somebody who does know what they're doing to create that recipe.
Yeah, it's pretty spot on. So I appreciate that as well. So the other thing that I noticed, you brought us 4 different issues. These look like they got
Those are the new ones that
they shrunk down a
yes,
little bit.
and
They're like comic books now.
Yeah, so that's actually, I'm glad you said that. That's part of the result is from COVID.
Yes, I figured that. That's why I wanted to ask you how it's been going with the putting out the magazine still.
Yeah, so in the beginning we were this is an A4 size, so the standard what's the American, you got 8.5 by
letter, but A4 is just
that's
slightly
it, the
bigger.
letter size. So
Yeah, it's
A4 is the
slightly
Japanese
bigger.
version or the European version of that, slightly bigger. And I was publishing 4 times a year. That caused a lot of problems. I mean, it's really difficult to produce a magazine 4 times a year under any conditions. But
Let alone COVID.
right, but when COVID hit, I mean, it created a lot of problems. But one of the positives, it gave me the window to change the magazine. And 2 of the things that we did were we went from 4 times a year to 2 times a year. That gave me a larger window in between issues to do other things like concentrate on the import side. Also, the magazine got smaller, so that's a B5, which is a much more portable size.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to handle.
Exactly, and the response has been immediate. We see it disappear off the shelves a lot quicker because people actually do take it home. The A4 size is it's bulky, so.
Okay. Well, I finished my other cider.
Let's go to the next.
Ta-da!
Ready for the next one?
Yeah.
I won't torture you guys with my reading first.
no.
This time we'll open it first. And
But I think that's got English on it. You
Then-
can at least read the.
then I'll wait. No. Y'all said we want to get to the drinking. Said you're taking too long. So I feel you on that. There we go. Oh, with the pop too.
Oh, I can already smell this. It's jumping out.
Yeah, I'm really happy with this cider.
Now, is this one 100% apples, or is there malt in this one?
No. This is a true Japanese cider. True cider, I should just say.
Okay.
I think I'll wait for Sev to do the reading.
I don't
thank
blame you.
Somebody waits. Oh boy.
Just 1 syllable at a time. That's the best way to read Japanese.
Do go crab.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay. limited brew. Yakaka
That's almost perfect.
cider. Moriyama Inn.
That is perfect. Well done.
Oh my goodness, thank you. All of those reading lessons paid off. They even have a website. Oh, and a QR code. But
Yes.
This is a nice brown bottle. I love this color. I love this pink. It has a couple of black, not all the way painted in stars, 3 of them to be exact, with a round circle. Looks kind of like the Japanese flag circle, but not all the way painted in. Oh yeah, that one is very strong. I'm sorry.
Cheers.
Yeah, absolutely.
It smells like, cider for real.
What do you typically say? Do you say cheers?
Kampai is the way you do it in Japan.
Kampai?
Yeah, kampai.
Do you tap the...
Kampai. Like that?
No,
You don't do
that. But that was the takeaway from the podcast. the Chicago
The tap.
The
Tap.
tap. Yeah, that's a Chicago thing for sure.
I always like to check and make sure because we don't know.
When I go back home, I do it like by force of habit now. People look at me like I'm crazy. I say, I don't know. It's just, it happens.
It's ingrained in us.
It just, I've been here not too long, but I've been here long enough to have picked up the habit.
Just enough.
This smells amazing and it tastes just as amazing. But we had a kombucha episode, and this kind of reminds me of remember I was telling you about how my mother made the kombucha tea as a kid?
The thing that I've gotten the most comments on that episode, I've gotten at least 13 text messages from folks saying he put the SCOBY on his face.
Wow. I missed that bit.
I didn't know what I was doing. I'm
You're
sorry.
famous for it. SCOBY face.
Okay.
So what about it reminds you of kombucha?
Just the tartness. It kind of has that little tart kick to it. When I first tasted it, the first thing that popped to my mind was Bragg's apple cider vinegar. Mm-hmm. Just kind of that similar flavor, but a little bit sweeter. But then when I gave it the second taste and I kind of let it sit, it kind of reminded me of the kombucha. So maybe a mix between the two.
The thing I love about this, and I can assume there's Dolgo crab in here, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
So I get that, like, whoa, but the tannin on it is really nice. It balances out the sweetness that I get from the nose, and it, like, flows very nicely into a almost aggressive but still soft tannin that's going through.
So this is probably, in my personal opinion, probably one of the best commercial cider makers in Japan. They're called Moriyama Inn. So that's basically, it translates to Forest Mountain Park. And so I wrote about them in the issue 4. So I knew early on that these people were on the right track. They are in Hirosaki, so they're in Aomori prefecture. So they're in the northernmost part of Japan, the largest apple growing region in Japan. I've been for years, and still am, an advocate of a different region, one that's closer to Tokyo, but these Moriyama are just outstanding. What they are pioneering in Japan is the using non-market ready apples, and that's a very big problem. Japanese cider makers tend to pick the best from the tree, clean them, treat them as if they're going to market, and what this guy has done is realize that there are apples being wasted because they're not being used, and he's using those apples. So it's this tekikaka is the apples that are in Japan usually pruned off to make room for the other apples, and he's using those apples to make his cider. And I think I brought some to America back in 2018, 2019, and it got the most vocal response from the cider makers. They're like, "What is this? Is this farmhouse? Like, what is this about?" So this is their Dolgo, and it's a single variety, so it's only using the Dolgo crab.
This is only Dolgo?
Yeah.
Oh wow,
it's insane. And for a Japanese cider maker to realize the value in making ciders with those kinds of varieties is still very new. So that they're doing it now is pretty amazing, and it's outstanding cider.
This is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
So you touched on regions. Do you have solidified regions for cider growing in Japan?
For apple growing, certainly. I mentioned Aomori, they're number one. They do about 80% of all apple production in Japan. Nagano, which is the prefecture that I work with closely because they're next door to Tokyo, they're about 14%, and then everybody else is in the single digits. So 80 to 14 that's a massive gap. But Aomori is really, it's way in the north and it's snow country, so not a lot of people out there. Things are spaced out quite far. So the difference between Aomori and Nagano is that Nagano is very concentrated. And because they're concentrated, they're basically they're neighbors, so they work together and they realize that they can, they work together to make the cider. Whereas Aomori, they've got more apples, but they've got less cider makers, and as a result, they just don't produce as much.
This is fantastic.
Yeah, this is and this is only the Dolgo. They've got a few others. I wish I could bring all of them over because they're outstanding.
This is a treat. I'm getting a lot of stewed cherry out of it, which I wouldn't expect. And if this is any sign of where craft Japanese cider making is going, Americans, you better watch out or keep up.
Yeah, and what's great is that a lot of other Japanese cider makers are now following their lead, understanding that, if you use, apples that aren't market ready, you can still come up with crazy stuff like that.
This is excellent.
Yeah.
Do you know if they do wild fermentation, if they're inoculating?
No. It's just still commercial yeast. I think. I don't know which they use, but they've actually, because inside of Japan we also provide yeast to a lot of the cider makers there, and they have bought some of the new fermentis South cider strains, but it's all commercial.
This is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm so over the moon about this.
Okay, well, finish it up because there's only a little bit left. we saved it for you, so
thank you.
So
I'll gladly take it.
Cider scene is blowing up. Cider scene is doing all kind of stuff, but CiderCon is still kind of where everything happens, right?
That's where we all kind of congregate to share stuff and meet.
Okay,
absolutely.
So, in preparation for the next CiderCon, do you have anything coming up or anything that you guys are trying to do or push for upcoming years?
I can't speak for the entire event because I don't know.
No. Just from your side of.
But something I've just completed that I was hoping could be incorporated into CiderCon is a project called the Global Cider Connect.
Okay.
Oh yes, please talk about this more.
Well, So again, rewind the clock. Back in 2017, 2018, the problem with Japanese ciders was that it all tasted the same, and it wasn't that good. Not that complex. I mean, it's just, it was the start, and I've always been about accelerating the improvement range. For craft beer, it was like 10 years it took from really bad Japanese beer to fantastic beer. And I've always been about having that to like 4 or 5 years. And the way that the Japanese craft beer got better was Japanese craft brewers learning from other craft brewers from different parts of the world.
Right.
So I created this thing called the Global Cider Connect, where I called my cider friends and said, would you like to collaborate with some Japanese cider makers and I think it was 5. Yeah, we got 5. I got one from Australia, one from America, one from Norway, Denmark, Spain. And they created these ciders with...
That's your cider, Spain. Cider.
Spain. I know. I'm thinking because Spain got to come see me if they want to get in on cider in the U.S. because I own it. I mean, I'm just saying. So.
So there was this collaboration project, and the idea was to get these cider makers to Japan and then basically teach their methods to Japanese cider makers. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, COVID kind of fucked that up.
19, right.
So we had to complete the project. So we instead of just shelving it, we just did everything online and basically. Yeah, through videos and a lot of meetings, they walk them through this process. Mm-hmm. And we finished, and it was this month. It's still May, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So earlier this month, we released 5, well, actually 6, technically 6 ciders that were collaborations from the cider makers around the world.
Cool.
And the original plan was to release that at CiderCon.
Okay.
But it couldn't happen timing wise. But that was Global Cider Connect Volume 1, and the idea is to continue that. So perhaps in the future we'll do a release at CiderCon.
Cool. I really want to let you know I'm a flowers while they can smell them type of person. I really appreciate your enthusiasm about the entire cider industry and how passionate you are about everything. And I really like the fact that you use the word you want to accelerate and you want to make everything, you want to push things forward. Besides just getting cider its own seat at the table in Japan, what are some other ideas that you would like to see happen with cider in Japan?
I think at the moment the word that keeps popping into my head is tourism. I mean, Japan is a nation that pretty much sustains itself on tourism, mm-hmm. And I just. From my experiences with cider, it just seems that it's an easy vehicle to pair with tourism.
Pair, pun intended.
Yeah, absolutely. So Japan, culture-wise, the Japanese are a culture that love to travel. The entire the domestic economy is based on domestic tourism, and I've always thought, why not extend that to international? A lot of the ciders that I import, I choose as because of their destination. Mm-hmm. So, for example, Tasmania, Australia, mm-hmm. is a location that I import a lot of their ciders from.
Okay. With
the long-term goal of Japanese people going there.
Well, it's not too. I mean, relatively speaking, it's not too far.
It's
right?
not too far, right? And because. And
when we say not too far, we mean distance flying on.
Right, from Japan, not here. Right. But the idea of going places to try a new cider, of mm-hmm. discovering new cider, that's fun. I mean, and I think
absolutely
it's something that I think, again, because I work in Japan, that the Japanese culture responds to. So that's the next step is turning cider into a tourism economy.
I think so. In the newest episode, you worked with Rhea Windcaller. Shout out to Cider Chat.
Yep.
Love that podcast.
So do
you
I.
Podcast listeners, please check her out. But she also has a very much enthusiastic and does the work to do cider tourism.
And a lot of what I just said was inspired by that. But she does these tours de France mainly. Mm-hmm. It's a fantastic way to experience another country, and you're just using something that's it's an easy communicator, right? It's alcohol.
But cider is special. I mean, cider friends are are special.
Yes.
We haven't talked too much about sake in this episode, but we are going to be doing. It is on the list to do a sake episode in 2022, Sev. Get ready, because I do love it. But sake, wine, beer, whiskey even, I've never found the kind of camaraderie that exists that it does in cider. And you said cider friends earlier, and I know that you meant it, because we all want to elevate each other and we all want everyone to do well. Do you find that happening in Japanese cider culture?
I think it's we're approaching that, but I certainly believe everything that you've just said. I think other industries do share, but I think what makes cider special is that because we're the underdog, as far as a category of drink, cider is the underdog. I mean, sake sells itself, beer definitely sells itself, but cider, just saying the word, people, there's in any country, it's, are you talking about this kind of cider or that? No, there's no clear definition. So I think that the people involved with cider really band together strongly.
Hot take coming through. Cider is, to me, second underdog. Because you know who's the underdog?
Are you going to say pop?
No. I wasn't going to say pop. We're talking about spirit, stuff that'll get you there.
All right.
Mead.
Oh, poor mead.
Yes. Because in this cider magazine, I saw a meadery, and I said, what is that?
That's right.
So that's hey, thanks for putting that in there, meadery. But yes, I ain't never heard mead friends or mead buddies.
I think, but mead's more like
mead moms.
Okay, so oh my God, can we please get the mead moms on this podcast? I need the mead moms.
I ain't never heard none of that. I'm just saying.
Welcome, the mead community. We did talk about doing a mead component of Chicago Cider Week and how to incorporate mead, but how I see it is that mead, they're more of the lone wolves. Like a lot of spiders don't actually band into communities, but they don't need to because they're fucking spiders and they're badass.
That's not what arachnophobia told me, because when I saw that movie, they were swarming all over people. I mean, it was spiders jumping out of people's eyes. I mean, shout out to being old. And I used to watch that movie every day. My
there's your mistake. I would never watch that.
Oh, they got on my nerves. I said, yeah, I got something for y'all. Push play on this VCR. Arachnophobia, come on. Everybody get out the way.
Oh, you're making me want to tangent so badly, but I'm not going to. Okay. I'm not going to bring up Melrose Place. Okay. So speaking of underdogs and things that are not underdogs, you've brought us a third product here.
Yeah, and I didn't. Yeah. So this is
that sigh is enough.
There is it's not even a drink that's specific to Japan, but it's called chuhai, and it's basically a alcoholic sparkling drink that the base is a spirit. So this particular spirit is a thing called shochu, which is it's a vodka made from potato or sweet potato or whatever. It's a Japanese distilled spirit.
Or barley.
Or barley, and a few others. But it's the easiest way to get effed up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to try this because I am a White Claw.
I picked this one because it's got an apple on it. So it's a shochu blended with apple juice.
I'm so excited about this.
Some of them are absolutely vile.
Just for full disclosure.
Oh, yeah, that smells like Jolly Rancher.
Oh, yeah, that's a Jolly Rancher. I haven't even tasted it, but I just can smell it.
Here on the OGDD, we aim to cover every spirit, no matter how disgusting or basic
But this
it
is the most popular drink in Japan.
I believe you. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's the same as in the U.S.
Yeah, it's the convenience store drink.
We have a problem with hard seltzers trying to take over.
So, real quick.
Take over the world.
Yeah.
What I was saying is
It smells
The
rancid.
whole room smells like an apple Jolly Rancher right
Yeah,
now.
it's pretty sick.
I'm pretty proud of those scientists.
I actually forgot what I was saying. Now
I want you to read that, though.
I'm gonna read this can. So, y'all think I can't do it? I can.
I'm in.
I know you can.
Lee knew you could.
Yeah, that's right. I brought that particular one for you.
The only word I can read on here is can and alk 0.5%.
There it is.
You know this?
But I'm going to describe it because it is a white can with green on the top and green on the bottom that kind of arch over it. And every picture is an apple with an apple drink with some ice cubes in there and an apple for a garnish and an apple cut in the middle. You can see the seeds with a little bit of peel on it at the bottom. And on the side, we have Japanese writing, 350 ml. We have a woman that has her hand on her chin and she's smiling, so that must mean she's enjoying something. And
You don't know what.
a
That's something.
barcode.
And a barcode.
And the top is gold and the bottom is silver. And it looks like Braille. Is that Braille?
It is Braille, and I was going to search for an American can, so they don't do it.
No,
in
we're not
America.
allowed. We have
it's-
to put legal information on the
Is
top
that
of our
right?
cans. It's actually.
So what does the
I could
Braille
go
say?
into hours
It
about
tells. I believe
Because it's not a lot of Braille. Sorry.
No, it is. I believe the what the product is, and I believe it's the alcohol content.
Okay.
But in Japan, yeah, all
Smart.
of the alcohol cans have Braille on the top.
I remember what I was going to say now.
that. Kampai, for better or for worse.
Here
we go.
I'm afraid. I'm
So I
very
was going to
afraid.
say, here at the OGDD, we aim to try every spirit there is at some point or another and give you a full review. And now we going international. So one day we're going to go to space and we're going to get some Romulan ale.
I
You know about that. You're a
love
Trekkie.
that you just said.
And so do I,
Yeah.
because that's an old school reference.
How has this not come out before? This is a breaking news in OGDD.
I'm somewhat of a genius. Sometimes I'm sorry. I can't say anymore. Cheers. We already toasted and clinked up.
Yeah.
Now let's give a taste.
Yeah, that
yeah.
smell is just killing me.
I can get it. It's so there's so much ethyl acetate in there that I can feel it's catching in the back of the studio audience. It's coughing because it's catching you in the back of the throat. There's so much ethyl acetate in it.
So I'm looking at the
You are so bougie.
the can, and it says that there's
Scientific.
1% juice.
Oh,
It's
so
just
it's got
the-
juice in it.
1%. Yeah.
1%. That's like natural. Every
enough
time
for
you see
space.
natural, you just cut your mind off from there because you know it's nothing in there is natural.
1% is good enough for space. It's good enough for us. And I've got another idea of how I'm getting to space.
Okay.
As per my bucket list,
I already know how I'm getting to space.
I'm sending a fax to NASA.
Okay, I'm with that.
I'm going to be the first bartender in space.
I'm with
I'm
that.
harkening back to the Michelle Foyk episode where we talked about what you're going to do before you die. I'm going to fucking space, and this is how I'm going to do
As
it.
a
I'm also
bartender?
going. Oh yeah, I'm going to be the first International Space Station bartender, and I'm also going to put in my signature and my LinkedIn ISS Executive Beverage Director, and just see if anyone notices.
I'm with it. Hey, whatever's clever, Trevor.
NASA, if you're listening.
And they are.
So would you drink this?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
But I appreciate you
But there are
bringing it.
different kinds of, and I do have to say, there is a brand that I was addicted to for a X amount of time because it was like 9%. And there was actually, we had a Facebook group
About it?
just because the thing about Japan is this need for new. So there's constantly new products being released, and it's usually seasonal, so like a spring this and a summer that. But with the chew highs, it's just every week now it seems like there's another one. But yeah, it's the same trick, right? It's pretty bad.
So for these of you out there in podcast land, Sev's laughing at me because I dumped a little bit of Malort into it. And it makes it better. So here's some Malort
All right.
for you all.
Wait.
I'm not dumping it
Am
in
I
there.
mixed?
You don't have to if you don't want to.
No, thank
I
you.
prefer this straight.
Or we just,
Yeah.
you can also just have the shot of Malort. So
I was
cheers.
going to say cheers.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
This is not a true Chicago handshake. This is like a Chicago. What's the white version? Because it can't be a dap. That's the black version. Oh, Chicago high five. There you go. That's what this is. It's Chicago high five because we don't have the beer to go with it. So, cheers. Tastes like a flower.
I love that stuff. I don't know why people is it complaining or is it the face that they make?
Oh, they say it's the worst thing ever. They say, "Why did you get this to me? This is torturous." They look at you, they call you names and everything else. But you know what? If you out there on your own island and you like it, then you're perfectly fine.
I think Malort is fantastic.
We will all survive. So.
The seltzer is definitely improved with a bit of Malort. So I have one more question for you about your importing, exporting business. So do you strictly import?
At the moment, it is import, but I am, it's not doing more than investigating. I'm trying to export. The problem is that Japanese ciders just are not ready for export yet. And by not ready, I mean quantity-wise, volume-wise.
Right.
They're not making enough.
Right.
So until Japanese cider production increases, but that is the eventual next step. So this one that we had, the Dolgo Crab Moriyama, is one of the cideries that I consult for, trying to get them exported. And there's another one out to Nagano. It'll happen. Yeah.
Flagship, absolutely, it'll happen.
Because that's what I want to know. How can we get our hands?
Yeah,
on
right
this
now
stuff?
that's the thing. You can't, and it hurts because there are a lot of Japanese ciders that people should taste. It's just really hard right now.
So, as a black person, gotta speak for black people here. You know we love exclusive stuff. Like, you ever see that Dave Chappelle episode?
I've seen all of them.
Where it was the fake cribs, and he said, "I got this dinosaur egg, and it's from 100,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Look at them, crack it." So I just got to drink some exclusive cider that's only in Japan, and you can't get it in the U.S. And I got it imported, so now I got specialty insides.
That's right. Absolutely.
That's why we had so many people that wanted to come here today.
Our studio audience.
Like it says, limited brew.
It really is. So, does the studio audience have any questions?
Any questions for the guest?
Not to put you all on the spot, but
That means we did such a good job asking all of the questions that there were no questions to ask.
I have no more answers.
Well, that's what I was about to ask you. Is there anything that we should ask you or that we didn't ask you that you think we should hit or cover?
No, I just think it's fantastic. There's an interest in Japanese ciders and what's happening. And I think something you said earlier, it's, I think, like all things Japanese, it will get better, and there will come a time where they will be a force to be reckoned with.
oh, watch your boots, Americans.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the English. Spain, you're good. You've got your niche. You're carved out. You've figured it out. The French, they're French, but the English and the Americans, you better watch out.
Yeah. No, but thanks. I really, I just appreciate being on here. It's been a lot of fun. You've asked all the right questions.
I got another question.
Hit it.
Except for that one, that one I wasn't expecting.
I just thought of something just now. Do we get to get a picture in the magazine? I mean, we get a little sponsor.
You know what? That's a bloody good idea.
I mean,
just a picture.
No, let's.
a little highlight of.
Correct. See a
Every
camera
time here.
Oh no. So I did. Yeah, I am excited. We're gonna cut that out.
No, we're gonna keep that.
No.
That's the best bit.
So how do we find you?
Let's see. Most active on Instagram, so at Insider Japan is a good way to find us.
That's INCIDER.
JAPAN.
Yes.
And then Facebook as well. And I put it. Yeah, if you just pop in Insider Japan on Google, you'll get one of our sites. Yeah.
And So you're not? Are you distributing the magazine to the U.S.?
Yes and no. We do have an international subscription option, but because of COVID, the Japan Post has made it very difficult for us to send the magazines abroad.
What about digital?
We do have that option. It's a download. So you can go to I have to promote another site, the Japan Cider Market. So www.japancidermarket.com was where we sell our ciders online, but you can also get the magazine as a digital download there, and you'll get it instantly.
With that, can we support the cider movement in Japan monetarily anyway? Is there like a donation tactic, something we can buy?
Thank you for asking that. The answer actually is no. Aside from downloading the magazine or subscribing, that's the way we usually ask for it. But no, we just kind of rely on ourselves selling the ciders is kind of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
But I appreciate you asking for that.
Oh yeah.
Well, if you think of it in the future,
absolutely,
cider friends are here.
I will come back and on handed knee.
So the computer's down.
It's not down. It's just running around and around and around.
To do. Well, close it up. We can do this on our own.
I have a technical question.
All right.
Sure, we have
Studio
a studio audience question.
I've noticed through sampling with you and
Hold on, step up to the mic, please.
Yeah, go for it. So I've noticed in the during the course of opening up a couple of these ciders, sampling, it seems to be highly carbonated, and several times, folks have been taking a break from the microphone to step aside and a slight burp, and it's totally cool. Being really like professional at the microphone, but it feels more highly carbonated than typical or similar ciders in America.
Yeah, and I think for the most part that is very, very true. I think there are no still ciders in at least being made in Japan. And it's funny because again, this particular Tekikaka from Moriyama, and I consult for this brewery, cidery, and their first problem was overcarbonation, a big problem.
Is it from natural? Or
no, it's the force. Yeah, they just haven't dialed it in yet. Yeah.
You know what I think is funny? He said a technical problem for humans. So we're technically flawed because we do have to step aside a little bit to keep from out the mics at the same time. But thank you for bringing that up, studio audience. We really appreciate your insight, seeing what we're doing while we're here
and telling everybody about it.
And telling everybody about it. Hey, we need somebody to describe these. This is a podcast. This is all audio. So the visual is just added in, and we just did that for you there. So with all that being said, we're going to get ready to get out of here. We're having real technical difficulties because our computer isn't working properly, but we're going to close here. And Lee, thank you.
Thank pleasure
you
has
so
been
much.
mine. This has been brilliant. Thank you for having me on. I'm totally love it.
Thank you for coming to visit
Thank you
us in Chicago. It's a pleasure to have you here.
And you know what? We didn't ask you, but I'm already going to assume, because Chicago's such an awesome city, especially when it comes to spirits, that you had an outstanding time visiting all the different spaces and places.
Absolutely. So first night at the Northman, a Chicago dog. Mind blowing, yeah, absolutely mind blowing. It's I love this city. I've only been to it, a few times, but it's one of my favorite places on the planet. It's just everything about it is just friendly. Is
well, where you grew up at versus where you live now, you got a third home,
and it's probably the safest, of the three.
I don't know if America's going to
maybe
agree
I should
with
have
you
said
there.
that.
They would venture to tell you something different, but
what do they know?
it depends on where you go.
Yeah,
exactly.
It depends on who you with. Hey, you stick with cider friends, you'll be okay.
There you go.
There it is.
Yeah.
Now me muddies or me buddies, you better watch out for them. Like you said, they lone wolves. They might leave you somewhere.
They might whoa.
Leave you somewhere.
They might leave you somewhere.
We can't leave on that.
Okay, I won't. We won't leave on talking
Watch
bad
your
about
back,
me,
yeah.
people. We will leave on a positive note, and the positive note is we're glad you visited us. We're glad you brought us so many delicious things to taste, and
We can't
look
wait
forward.
to come visit.
We'll
Yeah,
definitely. We
that's the
can't wait
thing,
to come
absolutely.
visit. But
Look me up.
before we get to visit, because sometimes people say things and it doesn't happen for a while. We look forward to the acceleration of the cider movement.
Cheers,
in Japan.
brother. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Oh.
So, please, feedback. That's what we're always looking for. You can find us at the original designated drinkers.com. Where else can you find us?
You can find us on Instagram at Drinkers Podcast, as well as Twitter.
And you can find us on Facebook at the OGDD.
How's that spelled?
TheOGEEDEE.
Or
So-
you can find us at info at theoriginaldesignateddrinkers.com.
Like I said, our computer crashed. If you'd like to reach out to us,
Our
please
fact checkers on it.
go back and check out some of our other episodes. We have our opening and our closing there all the way put together. I'll probably put something together before this episode, maybe at the end of it. But personally, you can reach out to us. For me, especially on Instagram, that's where you can find me most of the time. I am Sevy on Facebook at I am Sevy, and on Twitter at I am Sevy.
So,
So,
cheers. Kampai.
bye.